It's a trap! Hi, Zizaran here with another build guide for Sentinel 3.18, and we are updating the Seismic Trap Poison build. This is something I've played quite a lot of them before, and this is most likely the second strongest build of the entire league. This comes online a lot faster. It needs very little stuff and does an insane amount of damage. Obviously not as tanky as something like Explosive Arrow, maybe not even as tanky as Detonate Dead, but has a lot more damage than either and will absolutely blast bosses or Steel Mage in one hit. Probably highest damage starter that we have, and just really nice build, and still does really good on the tank front. This is seen a lot of use in competitions like Gauntlet and stuff like that, and that's how you know that it's a very solid build. A bit of a downside with this build is that obviously it is a trapper and it does have a bit delayed damage, kind of double delayed, because we are actually not featuring a crit version, we're featuring a damage over time version, and that would be the only downside with the delayed damage, so the monsters aren't instantly dying when you're right clicking. So this is Path of Building, a third-party tool. We do have both a video and a link in the description on how to get it. Very important and needed for all my build guides, and you can see here we do a step-by-step. It might at some point say update to 3.18. That does not mean the build guide is outdated. It is just because, well, we're making this now 3 days before the league and Path of Building hasn't fully updated. So rest assured, this is fully up to date for 3.18. We also have a few endgame trees. We've tried limiting these to make it less confusing. The no cluster jewel setup is incredibly tanky, maybe a little overkill tanky, and the cluster setup ends up being slightly better. Really good damage. And here we have a softcore setup that has even less tank, only 150%, or 140%, but it is a large amount more damage. So if you feel like you're not dying enough, this is the tree for you. So if we go to skills, you can see here how you level the character. We have Stormblast Mine early on, and once you get level 4, you also have Orb of Storms, and then you put down Orb of Storms and you Stormblast Mine inside it, and that procs Orb of Storms to electrocute enemies again. And it's a pretty good leveling experience, very easy. If you, for whatever reason, really hate this, you could do Orb of Storms and Spark instead. Remember, Spark needs Pierce, but that isn't the worst either. At level 12, you are using Lightning Trap for clearing, so you're just running along with the setup. And for single target here, you're using Bear Trap and then continuing to spam Lightning Trap. This doesn't have a cooldown, so you actually have really decent damage just by spamming this. And Bear Trap gives you, I think, an additional 10% more damage taken for bosses. Once you get level 28, this is a really cool combo that each of these have their own individual cooldown. So for bosses now, you're just putting down a Seismic, a Lightning, and a Flamethrower, and you're spamming all 3 charges of those. Eventually you have 4 charges of each. And yeah, you're basically tactically nuking bosses. Very strong. And you're still using Lightning Trap for clear all the way until you get 38. And here you're using a Sanguinate Trap, Cluster Trap, Chain, and then you're switching to Seismic as your single target. Some players choose to keep this for quite a long time, or until maps maybe, and that is okay too. And early on, we're using Herald of Agony, very important for high poison chance. You do want to get as close to 100% or over 100% if you can. And really cool, if you have Ashes, Divergent Herald of Agony basically gets you pretty much poison cap. In items, we have early game, mid game, and late game items, and we'll walk you through those real quick. Early game, you're basically looking for +1 level of physical spell skill gems is really good. But once you want to switch to poison, you want to have at least 25% chance to poison on a weapon. Getting 100% chance to poison is a very big deal. Other than that, you're just looking for life, resist, and spell suppression gear. And you are looking for a very early Darestalker. They're very good. And if you don't find a Darestalker, you can also use Embalmer, but it is worth noting that both Embalmer and Shaper Gloves are slightly worse now because of the new influence orbs, the Ichor and Ember currencies, and the glove ones are really good. In mid-game, we have put a Cold Iron point here. This is by no means necessary, and we're not actually using it in the endgame. It's just an early, good, cheap option. However, sometimes they will skyrocket in price, and then I wouldn't recommend them. Death Rush is really nice. If you're wondering, well, Zizaran, we're using traps, we're never killing anything. Whenever something dies to a damage over time, so our poison, then it is us killing it. So we are getting permanent onslaught from Death Rush. And this one, honestly, probably the most important thing in the entire guide. So poison stacks infinitely. So that means that the longer the duration you get, that is a huge damage multiplier for us. So getting this on a helmet, and this is from Betrayal, and you unveil it, is absolutely huge. Every single person that we had ask us about damage problems on the build did not have this, and it's very, very big. So make sure you get a helmet with an open suffix for duration of elements while focused. And the way focus works, we'll go in-game here, is that once you have that crafted or unveiled on any item, it will use all your focus mods and it'll give you that as a new hotkey. So whenever I click this now, then the ailment duration works. Another important craft here, and this is specifically because of Ghost Dance, is maximum life as extra energy shield. This is really nice, and we can see in-game on one of my old characters that I get 800 energy shield. And then Ghost Dance, the way it works is whenever you're hit, you lose a Ghost Shroud, but you recover energy shield equal to 3% of your evasion rating. And obviously we end up getting a large amount of evasion on these builds, so we're getting so much energy shield back. It is a very, very good tank buffer and allows us to make a lot tankier build. Here is an endgame weapon for the guide, and in the notes we have specifically how to craft this. It's actually basically deterministic. There's no RNG involved here, and very, very easy to craft, and the level of socketed gems is basically guaranteed from how we craft it, and you can put auras in this as well and they will get a gem level. Slightly stronger than a cold iron point, and sometimes cold iron point ends up skyrocketing in price, so it's very worth mentioning. The Pantheon for this build is Soul of the Brine King and Soul of Ralakesh, and for what bandit to kill, you kill them all. Now on hardcore, do note that it's always okay if you're struggling on resist to help Illyria early on and respec later, but there shouldn't really be a need. Now I really want to talk about the easiest thing to fuck up in this build, which is poison. A lot of people will look here and see that poison chance is not 100%. Path of Building doesn't calculate poison from weapon and a few other things completely correctly. So especially in-game, what you want to do is you want to click on your skill. So here I have 80%. I'll walk over that. I actually do have 100%. And we have extensive information how you can get 100% chance to poison and all the options. That being said, there is so much information in the notes. If you're struggling and everything, make sure you check it out. Zai has taken a lot of time and written some really good stuff here. So let's do the standard frequently asked questions that we do at the end of the guide, just to make sure we've covered everything. Are there too many gems to equip? No, it's actually very, very easy. There's not a crazy amount of socket pressure, and you do have things you can drop, like increased duration on the cast and damage taken setup, or you can also drop your entire shield charge setup. That would still work because you still have flame dash. Normally we would use shield charge for, you know, bossing and for mapping, and then you flame dash to get over things. But you could drop that if you're really struggling on gems for whatever reason. Can the player have mana issues? So there is one instance you could have mana issues if you don't put life tap on your cast when damage taken. It's in the notes as well that if you are struggling with it, just put life tap on it. Other than that, we are using life tap on everything. And since our first ascendancy is the Pyromaniac, which gives us 10% life regen, it's so easy to manage life tap, and we can go that pretty early. And other than that, until you get life tap on everything, just use a mana flask, and it's very, very easy, and an early swap as well. Useful leveling uniques, the main thing would be Deerstalker. Other than that, you would just have your standard ones like Gold Rim, etc. And for Deerstalker, obviously remember that you do want to have your trap setup in that, and then you can stop using the trap support gem. As far as quality of life and defensive options, we have an insane amount of regen on this build. We also have reduced damage taken from blinded enemies, and obviously everything nearby you is blinded, and the nearby is fairly large on this. So not exactly like Fortify, but really, really good nonetheless, and gives the build a large amount of tank. We also have just crazy amounts of regen. We also have the life as extra energy shield crafted on a chest, which makes Ghost Dance really, really good, and we're continuously getting energy shield back that way. And we're also blinding everything we've hit. So pretty much everything should be blinded. Just a really, really strong build. As far as mechanical drawbacks to the build, the only thing that's like different is that obviously you are placing down the traps. The traps are poisoning the enemies. For like normal monsters, they'll instantly die, but obviously rares and stuff, they aren't instantly dying. So that can be a little bit frustrating for some people, that the damage is delayed and not instant. Obviously something like Omniscience Lightning Strike, you are just right clicking the enemies away. There are no financial hurdles. It is a really good solo self-on build. The only thing that can be annoying is Coded Shrapnel. Other than that, even things like Deerstalker, obviously you find like 20 to 50 each league. Very, very common, unique. Coded Shrapnel, I do find that I find a lot as well, but you might not find one, you know, for a week on solo self-on. So that can be a bit of a downside. Thank you so much. Thanks to Sai for helping with the guide, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Good luck in Sentinel. Subscribe if you like the video. But more importantly, try to die less than I do.